Hey there, Ryan Reynolds here. It's a new year, and you know what that means. No, not the diet. Resolutions. A way for us all to try and do a little bit better than we did last year. And my resolution, unlike big wireless, is to not be a raging and raise the price of wireless on you every chance I get. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited. See mintmobile.com for details.
Don't miss out on the final football game of the season with Prize Picks. Join now because Prize Picks are giving away a free pick for the big game where 1 yard equals 1 win. Just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Download the Prize Picks app and use code FIELD and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code FIELD on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks. Run your game. Must be present in certain states. Visit prizepicks.com for restrictions and details.
Welcome to Supernatural Circumstances, the podcast where we take you down the rabbit hole into the fantastic world of the strange, the paranormal, and the unknown. I'm Morgan Knudsen.
And I'm Mike Browne. It's time to dim the lights and settle in. Come along with us on this week's adventure. And we're headed north.
We are headed north.
A little to the west. Northwest, very northwest of North America. We're going to Alaska.
Yes, and the southern tip of the Kenai Peninsula, which... for people who don't know, is known today as Port Chatham, but was also known as Portlock, Alaska, based on the discoverer, Nathaniel Portlock. And it was creepily abandoned during the 1940s and 50s. And many times people will cite, it was economic decline and so on and so forth. But when you dig into it, there is a far different side to it when you start to look at the history, and it's pretty freaky.
So there's a great Discovery TV show called Alaskan Killer Bigfoot, and if you have it streaming, you can stream it on Discovery Plus. No, it's not an ad for Discovery Plus, but that's just where you find it. And so we have one of the folks who was in that show here to talk to us today.
Yeah, and what's so exciting about this, and I was so looking forward to talking to him, because not only was he there, but he is a descendant of the original people that fled Portlock during that time period. They would have been his grandparents. So he got to go back for 40 days and with basically just camping gear. The film crew, the documentary crew, and a bear guard, his cousin Keith, and a few other people. And they spent time there, which they were advised not to do, because during this time period, there were reports of mutilated bodies of hunters and whatnot. This was a fishing and cannery village, just to give everybody some context. And during that time period of a lot of fishing, many people say a lot of overfishing, overlogging, clearing, and things like that, they became under attack by an entity that they called Nantinaq. And Nantinaq was like a supernatural Sasquatch, something that was almost like an entity of sorts, rather than just a simple Bigfoot like maybe that we would have known today. So the town was abandoned, and it was just under duress. Everybody just dumped everything and took off because they were finding so many mutilated hunters, miners, just horrific sights.
Yeah, so who we have with us is DJ Brewster, and I'm looking forward to talking to DJ. He seems like a great guy.
Yeah, let's see what he experienced and what his take on all of this is. It's going to be great.
This episode is brought to you by Amazon. Sometimes the most painful part of getting sick is the getting better part. Waiting on hold for an appointment, sitting in crowded waiting rooms, standing in line at the pharmacy, that's painful. Amazon One Medical and Amazon Pharmacy remove those painful parts of getting better with things like 24/7 virtual visits and prescriptions delivered to your door. Thanks to Amazon Pharmacy and Amazon One Medical, healthcare just got less painful.
Hey, Atlanta. Apple is open for small business. That's right. We're here to make starting and running your business simpler. With privacy and security built in on all devices, it's easy for you to protect your customers' data. And if you need hardware or software support, you'll get advice from business experts at no cost whatsoever. So you can focus more on the soup du jour and less on, the other stuff. At Apple, we're open for your small business. Go to apple.com/small business or visit an Apple store to learn more.
I couldn't be more excited about doing this today because this is not only a subject that I've been really, really excited to talk about, but DJ, I've known you online for a while, and I know you've got just such an incredible story. And over the years, I've had the pleasure of talking to Kyle McDowell and Ron Moorhead and Ashney Ehrhoff, your friends, and about this subject and some of this. And so I'm so glad that you're here. So welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Yeah, this has been such a point of fascination for me. And I'll break this up a little bit by saying we had on Ron Moorhead, I guess it was last year, Mike. It was last year. Yeah. And we had such an incredible conversation with him about some of this. And I want to get into this with you, but you became known for the show Alaskan Killer Bigfoot, which was on Discovery. Fantastic show. It was so interesting. And you've got an incredible connection to the history there, as well as to the people that you were with. So what inspired you to join into this expedition? What was it for you?
Well, it's kind of a little bit of a long story how I got up to be a part of the team.
We love a story.
I was actually I went to cooking school in Minnesota because I knew I'd be able to complete my schooling, because I have a really big family here in Alaska because I'm native, and I usually help people out, like when they call and they're like, hey, we need help moving this, or can you get a ride here, or can you help us cook for this dinner? So I'll just drop what I'm doing and go help them. So when I decided to go to cooking school in Minnesota, I was like, I know I can focus on my school if I'm in a different state. And then
that's smart.
Then I got done with school. I came back to Alaska, cooked up here for a year, and then I went back to Minnesota to go pursue cooking as a career because I wanted to get into fine dining. And then I quickly realized it's not very financially beneficial, especially when you have student loans. So then I got a unique opportunity to be an executive chef in Wisconsin, and I took that job for 3 years.
Wow.
And then wintertime, they would send me to West Virginia to go cook at their ski resort they had. And then during COVID, my mom wasn't doing too well, so sold everything. So my short career in the lower 48 came to an end, came back to Alaska. And then there was rumors about this show starting. It's like, dang, that's pretty cool. That'd be awesome to be a part of. And then one of the producers called me and it's like, hey, we heard you went to culinary school. We'd like to hire you as a cook for the cast and crew. And I was like, oh, that'd be cool. Like, I don't want to be on camera, though. Like, I'm pretty nervous and shy about being on camera. Very self-conscious about how I sound and how I look. And I was like, yeah, I can do some foraging and make, like, little cooking videos or something on the side. And then next thing you know, we have a big Zoom meeting with the production crew and everybody. And they're like, who is this guy with the beard and the long hair? And I'm like, hi, I'm DJ. I'm going to cook for everybody. Like, we need you on camera. And I'm like, I don't want to be on camera.
Oh, no.
So then it turned into just cooking for cast and crew to being on camera and cooking for cast and crew. Because there was, like, with the cast and crew, the production team, there's about, say, 11 to 15 people at a time out there. So I was cooking 2 meals a day and then making stuff so that way we have snacks throughout the day while we're hiking around and filming.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, first of all, the next show that I'm on, I'm hoping you're on the cast as well, because we never got fed that well.
No, we never get good food.
So
yeah, it was
count
a lot of
me
fun
in.
because I got to cook over an open fire every day.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That's amazing. I mean, we were lucky. Usually on set, we would get fruit, apples, and perhaps a Timbit. And that was, and for the Americans, it's a donut. Okay. But that's about
Donut hole.
donut hole. Donut hole. Yeah, that was it. So what were your thoughts going into this? Like, I mean, this area has got a deep history behind it. What was your understanding of the area? Like, culturally, had you heard stories about this, or like, what was your understanding of going in?
So I've always just been told that it was an evil place, and usually people wouldn't go into detail about it. And then growing up, we heard a lot of stories, and I thought it was kind of like lore. Like, then we had these books that were typed up and typewriter and sketches, and had different stories of, that area, different traditional stories of like why we celebrate because we're Russian Orthodox, we do Russian New Year's and stuff like that. And then in those books, they also had like plant identification and how to make a fish wheel or fish traps or how to make snares and stuff. So it was all kind of like useful information, but it always got my attention with all these stories. And I just kind of thought they're like our version of like the Brothers Grimm or something,
Sure.
And stay away from the woods. Don't go out when it's foggy, or don't go in the woods especially when it's foggy out, because you won't be able to see. Don't go to Portlock. Don't whistle, because then you're calling and baiting things. And then when we were filming, they were showing me newspaper articles, and I was like, whoa, wait a minute, like.
Right.
These stories are actually like real.
Oh, wow.
So
yeah,
just getting
that's a big turning point.
Yeah, just arriving there in Portlock, because it's so close, but it was always kind of like, don't go there, because fishermen would go there and get weathered in real bad, and they'd have to anchor and camp out for a few days until the waters were calm enough to keep continuing their path. And so when we pulled up, the fog, you can see it coming down the mountain all the way down to the water. And I looked at Keith and I was like, man, this is like exactly what they told us not to do. So it was immediately eerie.
Oh, I believe it. I mean, it's such an impactful place. So you guys get there, and immediately, I know Kyle was saying to me that the first thing that he noticed was the fact that he immediately felt like he was being watched, that you guys like weren't alone. And for the audience, Kyle McDowell was a bear guard who was brought in to look after everybody, and he has done this all over Alaska for different production teams and whatnot. And that was the one thing that he said right off the bat, that he felt like he wasn't alone. Did you feel that as well?
Oh, absolutely. I'm getting goosebumps right now just thinking about it and like just picturing it in my head. And then like when we landed and started setting up camp, it was just, it was like so quiet. And then the fog was just like perfect setting. And then it just, that feeling of like you're not supposed to be there and just kind of like staring at you and watching you. And everyone's just kind of like looking at each other and like, do you feel that? Like, it was just a very, very creepy and eerie feeling.
Oh gosh. And I know the feeling, because there's definitely parts of Alberta here where I am where Oh, I've had the same feeling, but I mean, this area is so, it's so remote. First night there, you guys end up in a cabin, one of the cabins that used to house somebody. I would imagine that looked pretty run down. And the first night was pretty harrowing, just in and of itself. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
So that first night, when we got there, it was fairly calm, but the wind started to pick up, and we were getting constant 30, 40 mile an hour winds and gusts up to 80 miles an hour that first week alone. So it was really difficult to even try set up the tent because everything was just kind of trying to blow away. And so Kyle went out and looked around a little bit to see if there was anything kind of remotely safe for us to, because with all the trees swaying around and everything, there wasn't really much protection from the elements. And we get to the cabin and we're like, well, at least it'll keep us out of the wind somewhat. There was still some holes and stuff, and the windows were, non-existent, but it was somewhat of a relief. The only thing scary about that was I just hope this cabin doesn't collapse on us in the middle of the night. But it was cool because it was definitely a waypoint for us. So, somewhere where everyone knows where the cabin is. So if something happens, lose track of time, can't find someone, or, break off from the crew, at least go to the cabin and kind of wait there type of thing.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, that area is so big, and I think people don't realize just how vast some of the areas in Alaska actually are. It's hard, especially for city folk, I think, to really get their heads around as to how huge and just full of life, but yet empty at the same time some of these places are. I mean, even in Canada, we get some of these vast expanses. When did you feel like or was there a moment where you realized, hey, wait a minute, there's something else here that's not people? Did you have a moment? Was it a moment, or was it a series of events? What was it for you?
Well, we kind of grew up in the area, so there was always that kind of a presence. Within 5 miles, if you go over the mountain, you'll get to our village of Nantinaq. But if you go along the coastline, then it'll be 10 miles, 15 miles. So there's no roads or four-wheeler trails that directly go there. So it's all just woods and rugged terrain and stuff, so no one goes for a hike over there. It's it's a normal day or anything, but we all kind of grew up with knowing that there's bears and goats and stuff like that. But getting to Portlock, knowing some of the stories and stuff, and that first week of just the winds going crazy and the fog, and one night Kyle was one of the first couple nights, it kind of sounded like it was just a loud screeching noise, and some people compared it to a young bear or something, but it was way too early in the year for a bear. And they actually took a team out, and I was like, hey, leave someone here for me. This is because I was
right?
Getting dinner ready and stuff, and I'm like, this is Predator 101 stuff, cause a distraction, get everyone to break up, and the person leaving at camp who's getting dinner ready is the first one that they come after.
Sure.
It's totally a horror movie.
So yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. Everyone's all excited to go investigate, and I'm like, I wanted to, and they're like, hey, we just got here, we've been trying to set up camp for a few hours, you should probably get some cooking. I'm like, maybe we should leave, one or two people here, kind of watch my back for me.
Well, and you had some pretty good reason too, because in the newspaper articles in a lot of the oral traditions, that was one of the big aspects of, and one of the big key factors in people's reports about this area was the fact that not only was there sightings of Nantinaq, or sort of this supernatural Sasquatch, but that these were violent encounters. Do you want to talk a little bit about what some of those newspaper articles said, and maybe how they compared to the oral traditions that you guys were told about?
So some of the articles and what I've heard is like people have gone missing, and like even experienced like hunter trappers who knew the area, and then in the springtime after the breakup season, there were limbs that were found in the river and lagoon nearby. Excuse me. And then there was one account where Hunter was said that a creature picked him up and pounded him on his chest, and then I guess somehow his dog was able to scare it off or something. But this hunter actually passed away due to internal injuries. And he said, I know it wasn't a bear, I know what a bear looks like, but this was a creature that I can't explain. And hearing that and knowing that he was kind of like documented in what he said at the hospital, and to get injuries like that, he'd either have to have something really big fall on him or like fall down a cliff or something like that.
Yeah, and when you're that ill, it's not like you're going to be making up a story like that.
Yeah, and if you do, then that's just crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and not that wasn't the only one, and I believe the hunter's name was, I think, Albert Petka, I think, is the name that rings a bell. But there was so many of these reported encounters, and like you were mentioning, people finding body parts that seemed to be washed down into the lagoon area that was there. And you had another one of your friends that came out, Noah, who joined you guys for a little bit, and he decided not to stay, but he had talked about the idea of this river with the salmon, and the body parts of these poor people that had been basically attacked and killed somewhere in the mountain area, and of course they'd be found later. You guys had a night out at some point in the expedition, and it was, or at least in the show, it looked like that was Noah's last day there. Do you want to talk about that a little bit, and what happened, and what did he hear?
I'm gonna go back to the body parts also. If
Sure.
it was like a bear or wolf or something, there wouldn't be anything left of the body parts. There would just be bones. Like that would be their meal or whatever. So that was also very strange and odd as well. And then that night with Noah, that was another very crazy night. Number one, it was blowing like crazy. We set up little microphones in little certain areas, and we went to this area where there was a big tree where it had like a lot of energy, feel like it was coming off of it. And we were just kind of hanging out there, and his dog was just not having a good time. All over the place, like, when the dog gets on high alert, they're running, to the whatever's freaking him out, and this dog was like running in circles, didn't know which way to go. There was something there. He was having a little bit of trouble keeping the dog contained. And after a few hours, it seemed like I didn't hear because it was so windy, and we had some of the old factory, like the cannery building parts around. So I thought I was hearing a whistle, and I figured it was based off of that. And then later on, after Kyle was playing back the audio for me, because I didn't hear it right away, And he's like, hey, check this out. Like, did you hear that? Like, it sounded like there was something like whispering, like right behind where I was sitting. And that was really, really weird because we're on high alert. It's not a fun situation. Been up all day, and they were trying to get these audio recordings, and it was really quiet at night usually, other than the fact that we had the wind there. But that was very, it made me think twice about what I was doing. Like, do I really want to, like, if the only emergency way out is hopefully one of the producer's satellite phones working right at that moment and we can get a helicopter out. Because I've heard stories that, you know, bullets can't take down this Nantinaq. So, you know, it's like, if it's a violent interaction, like, what do I do?
Yeah. Well, and you know, like we were saying, there's this strong history and like reason to be concerned about it. I know I've thought that myself in various expeditions and whatever that I've been on over the years, in regards to this type of phenomenon where you have an incident like that happen, and you figure out really, really quickly that you're not in control out there. It's not you anymore. It's you're really kind of at the mercy of whatever's going on around you. I mean, what did Noah take away from that? I mean, here he is, of course, having to deal with his dogs. I can't imagine what's going through his head.
I don't know exactly. I just know that he was definitely having a hard time keeping control of his dogs, and he has like his own like dog team basically that he takes care of. So, you know, he wasn't able to keep a handle on, I believe it was Kobe that was with us, and you know, he didn't like that feeling. He didn't like, you know, not being able to, you know, kind of be in control. Yeah. So that kind of helped his decision a bit. Plus, he also had his normal dogs that he had to take care of as well. So he wasn't able to be out there as long as he wanted to be.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, you run into something like that, and I mean, it does, like you were saying, makes you question, you know, how dedicated am I to staying out here another couple of nights. You were mentioning the tree, and I think that was such a unique feature of this expedition. And when we talked to Ron Moorhead, he was mentioning the tree as well, that it was something that was so significant. I mean, it was one of these massive giant trees. This was an area that did a lot of logging, and most of the large trees at that point had been torn down for lumber and whatnot. And this tree, I think Kyle said he suspected it was around 1,000 years old. What was it about this tree? Can you talk about it a little bit and describe it for people, because it was very imposing.
So like all the trees around that area, they look like they probably maybe 80 years old. They're, you know, not very big. Especially compared to this large one. Like even before you see it while we were hiking through the woods, you just start like feeling like there's like an aura around it or something. But at first it was freaky because how large it was, especially compared to all the other trees in the area. And like growing up in the area, I've never seen a tree that big either. So like it's what I imagine what California redwoods look like.
Wow.
And it was just huge, massive. And at first that was kind of creepy, but it just had like an aura, and it was like another waypoint, you know, somewhere like kind of like a safe point where, you know, you can go meet up if you can't make it to the cabin type of thing. Because they're kind of close together, but kind of far away. Like, you know, when you're hiking through the woods and going through a couple feet of snow, it's kind of hard to quickly meet at this point. Or, you know, if you get split up, you can have one group meet here and another group meet there, whichever one's closer.
Yeah, Ron Moorhead, he was adamant about the trees playing a special role with Bigfoot, with Nantinaq, that there was a connection, there was an energy connection with them. What did he tell you about that?
He didn't tell me particularly about that. I got to stay at camp quite a bit while they were going out, which kind of was not as fun the further we got into the show.
I bet.
Because it'd be like, oh, cool, let's go here. And they're like, we need you to make sure you have dinner ready. I'm like, one of these days I'm going to go out with you guys. But, how I feel about how the connection with the trees is because maybe that they're rooted to the ground. Mm-hmm. Having a 10-minute conversation with Ron, I'll tell you right now in person, is kind of overwhelming because there's so much knowledge coming out of that guy at once, and he really needs to just like sit down and just record like all his experiences. He's an amazing individual, and he's like been all over the world. Like, it is pretty awesome individual. It was great to have him there.
Yeah, we loved talking to him, and we loved his approach of looking not only at what was going on in Portlock and in terms of the paranormal activity that was going on, but also the role of the people and how we interact with nature and with Sasquatch. And I thought that was really interesting. Like, he brought up, I remember during the show when you guys were sitting around the campfire, and he talked about the idea that Nantinaq might have been reacting to the fishing and the logging and things like that were going on. What were your thoughts on that?
So for me, like how people interpreted the stories and stuff, like everyone thought of, or a lot of people, not everyone, thought of Nantinaq as this violent creature, but like from what I understood, she, Nantinaq, was more of like a protector, it felt like, for me.
Yeah.
Because then you hear the stories of like loggers in like Washington, Oregon, you know, having interactions, and I know this one guy I worked with when we had a little bit of a break from filming, and I was working with this crew, and one of my coworkers, he told me he was logging in Oregon. He lived in Oregon, and he just looked up while he was running his tractor. He said about 100 yards in front of him, there was one staring at him, and he's just like, oh, that is just crazy.
Wow.
And then he said it happened another time shortly after, and he decided to quit logging and move to Alaska.
Oh, jeez.
So he's just like, yeah, he's like, after the second time, I decided it was time to change careers.
That's
and
impactful.
He was in the military and stuff like that also, so he's not really scared of much. And it was, you know, for him to be like, yeah, I think I'm going to go work in the oil field in Alaska now. We were having a break from filming, and I went back to my village, and I was working with a crew that came into our village to do some work.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
And he was asking me about what the show was about, because his boss was like, oh, we got an actor coming to do labor for us. And I'm like, I'm not an actor. I'm a cook at most. And after a couple of weeks of working together, he's just like, I got something to tell you. Like, it's not something that he was going around, you know, talking about all the time. It's just one day towards the end of the day of work, he's like, hey, I got something to tell you. And he told me about it, and I was just like, dang, like that. I feel like if I was in the same position, I'd probably be like, yeah, I think I'm done with logging now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I loved what Ron brought to the table, and I love what you're saying about this as well, is that just looking at the situation and the behavior and what you guys were seeing, when you had that realization that maybe this being was more of a protector, did it make you feel any better at night, or were you still looking over your shoulder a little bit?
Are you always looking over your shoulder? Because, you got bears and stuff there as well. Mm-hmm. But, and then especially like cooking food over the fire definitely attracts animals.
Sure.
Just knowing the stories and stuff, then at first it was really kind of freaky. But then thinking about it, they really didn't have any really major problems until, the area was kind of being developed for mining, logging, and fishing. And I feel like maybe it was like a greed. Families are starting to maybe fight or something. I don't know. Mm-hmm. It got to a point where, this entity had to step in and be like, that's it. You're not destroying this land. This is a special place. And I wish, like, the cameras didn't do it justice for that, how beautiful that area is. Like, I can see if anybody went there now and tried to go logging or, mass fishing, cannery setup, like, I'd be upset too. I would not be happy because I've traveled around the country and stuff like that, and like I went to cities and seen different places, and like I can never explain how beautiful that area is that we're from. You just have mountains and nature and ocean, and the ocean feeds us, the woods keep us warm, and it's just like almost like fake when you describe it. It's just
yeah.
But it's like everywhere I've gone, it's like I've always like no matter where I'm working or whatever my goal is for the job, it's like I want to get back home and get back to my village.
It looks incredible, and I know Keith at one point was saying that you guys were seeing the Northern Lights a lot. I mean, it's like absolute magic, and that was the one thing that really struck me throughout the time that I was watching the show, was that the area in and of itself just seems to hold that level of magic. Like, it doesn't seem a stretch to me at all that there were these paranormal type occurrences that were going on, because to me it's just, well, of course there's more magical things going on here. I mean, this is the exact setting that you read about in storybooks. Like there's this energy to some of these places, and I know like here in Alberta we find these areas every once in a while here as well, where you get there, and we've got similar terrain to what you guys have in Alaska, and it carries with it I don't know how you explain it. But it's very special, and you're experiencing something special when you're there. Bite came out. Well, I guess it was when were you here last, Mike?
Oh God, last year.
Last year
in the spring.
In spring, yeah, and we ended up in this one location, and in central Alberta, and it was so interesting because Mike had gone back to the hotel, and about an hour after that, myself and a couple of other researchers stayed out, and we were hearing Sasquatch whistling, tree knocks, all sorts of different things that were going on. But it was like everything just came alive, and the locals that are in the area just they just accept it. It's just part of nature, and like you were saying, it's so magical. What do you think, or what do you hope that people take away from these encounters, and maybe like your experience there? Because you were saying nature and balance is so important. What do you hope people take away from this?
So one thing about like the Northern Lights, in that area of Alaska, like we really don't get to see the Northern Lights very often because they usually don't come that far south.
Interesting.
So being the time of the year when it was, and multiple times. We got beautiful shows. It actually helped build more of like being there in Portlock, and like you're saying, kind of like magical. It was just like, what is going on? Like, we usually don't see the Northern Lights this often or this intense.
Wow.
So it was pretty amazing experience.
That kind of makes me wonder. As soon as you said that, what popped into my head is I almost wonder, because I know the legends of Nantinaq and some of the things that have been written is that this energy has control over things like weather and phenomenon, and that's kind of the lore behind it. And do you feel like, as you're watching the Northern Lights, that maybe the show was for you guys? Because I mean, you guys were there respecting the land. You weren't taking more than you needed. Like, do you think maybe it was a nod to you guys, or do you think it was just the nature doing its thing?
I feel like it was definitely like a nod, especially like I was saying, like especially with the Northern Lights, and then going there and the weather being so extreme when we first got there to being this beautiful, calm, nice, sunny place at the end there, and it was just a great. I can't wait to go back. I'm definitely going to go back again one of these days. But the main thing, the reason why we went there was so that way we could, make sure that there is some resources that we could use, because our village is kind of getting overpopulated. There's not enough people for the houses that are built, and can't kind of build them fast enough, and there's not much space to be able to build them because no one wants to do any clear cutting, because we'll run into a bad situation like we did in the past. And
sure,
we were kind of just wanted to go down there, kind of see if there's like the old water system or how it would work, or see if we can kind of map it out, and would it be possible to at least build something down there again, because if there's fish and stuff like that, we'd be able to, freshwater sources, we'd be able to at least get a few houses built down there, and help relieve the resources we have in Nantinaq. So that was the original reason for going. And we get down there, and you get this, you don't want to be there at first because of the weather and knowing everything, and then after spending like a month down there, a little bit over a month, it was just like, I can see myself living here.
Wow.
Like at first I had nothing, I didn't want anything to do with it. I was like, this is just a bad idea. Grandma said not to come here, and Mom said it's not a good idea. But after a while, it was a lot more peaceful. And I will tell you what, one thing that I will always stick with me is when Ron came and brought his recordings with him, and we blasted the speaker at 3 a.m. That was so freaky.
Yeah, tell us about that.
They had to change the audio a little bit because it wouldn't come up on the TV, as that speaker was so loud. And then as we're flashing our lights in the woods, all the trees started shaking. It was a calm night, dead quiet. Trees started shaking, brush started shaking, birds started flying out of the trees, and it was just, I got real scared, like even more than pulling up to a foggy land. It was just like, all I can think is like, oh, this might be the night. Like, I was terrified. And then guy, you can feel like he heard a big thump, like not far in front of him, like maybe 20 feet. And when we were standing on kind of like a soft, muddy area, and when like you throw a rock or something, in front of you, like the ground kind of shakes a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
We were starting to get that feeling too, and the audio guy said he heard the thump too. He was able to tell it apart. So that was very terrifying for me. But it was, I don't know, after that, everything just became a lot more calm.
That's interesting.
But that night, I was like, I'm going to have to defend myself. I'm not ready for this. They don't teach you how to do this in school.
In culinary school, no.
Yeah, in culinary.
Well, and to give listeners a bit of context, Ron came with this huge speaker and his recordings from the Sierras when Ron did a number of expeditions into the Sierra Mountains, and he had he's got so many recordings of these beings, and you guys blasted those calls into the woods. And the one thing that he was saying, which has always unnerved me about exactly what you're talking about, that particular night, was the fact that a lot of it seems like a language, and they had a cryptolinguist. He had a cryptolinguist tell him that no, this is a language, and here, we're blasting this language into the woods, and nobody knows what we're saying. It was just,
it's like it could be someone fighting or wanting to fight, or like someone saying, it's like, okay, we don't know what this means, but we're just gonna blast it. So hopefully something good comes out of it.
Oh my God, yeah, I can't imagine what you guys must have been feeling. I know in the past, one of my main areas of research has been dogmen here in Alberta, and that was one of the things that we would do every once in a while is set out these calls of recordings that we've had and whatnot of dogmen, and kind of just let them play, and usually we've gotten a response from it, and it's really profound. I mean, but it's interesting that you were saying that at that night after that, everything seemed to calm down. Why do you think that happened?
I don't know. I honestly don't know, but like, I don't know if it was just like thinking or, knowing like, okay, this is like, if something's going to happen tonight, like this is going to be the worst of it, to like, I don't know, everything just felt more at ease after, like the weather wasn't as bad, and then like shortly after that, we had some of our family come at the end of the series, and it was really great to be able to show them around where we've been and stuff, and I got to cook for everybody. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, what a great moment that is bringing people on board, because I mean there'd been nobody there for so long, and I love the fact that it ended with that celebration and that energy, because I know the one thing that I've found over the years, no matter what type of research that I'm doing, and especially with the dogman stuff, interestingly enough, is that one of the things that they respond to so deeply is joy. And I loved the fact that it was such a celebration with you guys at the end, where you've got, family, and you're exploring, and you're having fun there, and it's so impactful. And that joy in the role of in situations with whether the paranormal, whether it be hauntings or dogman or Sasquatch or whichever, it's such a pull for so much of this stuff, and so much activity often happens around it, which is really cool. So I loved that with what you guys did there. I thought that was really, really, really brilliant. What did your families think?
Well, they kind of had the feeling like when I got there the first day, but the weather was way better for them. They've heard about Portlock and never been there also. So actually having someone who's been out there for a month being like, hey, don't worry, like it's okay, it'll show you some really cool points where we've had to camp out and had to places where we met, and, told them a little bit about what we've done and stuff on. Like, they're just really excited and just really happy to be there also, like, at the end.
Did you guys ever, I have to ask you about this, because I was fascinated about this point in in the show as well. When Kyle finds that really strange hole in the ground near, I think it was near the obelisk. I think he found it was somewhere close to there.
It was over towards the lagoon.
It was towards the lagoon. Okay, so
yeah,
did you guys ever find out what this was? And so, just for the audience, there was this really strange man-made dugout hole that was lined with lumber. It seemed to be lined with lumber, and it just seemed, he thought that it might be like a bug out pit or something like that. But I'll let you get into that a little bit.
So we've come up with some theories, like possibly maybe like a food cache or something also, because you be able to dig something out like that and then, store some meat before it freezes, and it'll be able to last long like a fridge. But I've never seen one around anywhere else. Like, that was one of the few places. And, with everyone leaving when they did and how quickly they did, like, it doesn't surprise me if it would be a bug out hole. I know Ash went in there and dug around a little bit and see if we can see any like artifacts or anything like that, or just anything that was maybe left behind there, but we really didn't find much.
Yeah, it's so strange. It's so strange. There's so many like unanswered questions about this place, and I mean, it's crazy. I mean, there was just seemed to be no end to it.
Everyone just got up and left, so there was like no like map, nothing written down or anything like that. Like, everything's literally been kind of like handed down orally.
Well, I think what you guys did was document some of this place when you went and did this show. I think it was great. It was a great show for the show's sake, but I think there's something that happened that was really special, which is you guys got to document something that is going to be in lore and educate people for a really, really long time to come about this place, about this experience. I mean, to me, it's really significant, and thank you guys for doing it. Thank you guys for introducing this to the general population so that people can begin to understand your culture, the experiences that are there, that, I mean, otherwise we'll never get, we'll never be able to do that kind of thing. So I think it's amazing. Thank you so much.
I agree with you 100%, because like I said, I just, heard these stories and then, never actually got to see it. No one went down to go take pictures of down there or anything. So it was definitely a cool experience and very unique, very terrifying all at the same time. Yeah, like you said, we were able to document it. So like, if someone happens to get stuck in there while fishing, at least I can show them, this would be good for cover from the wind. This place, you can get fresh water from here. Over here, there's some edible plants that you can eat, and this is a good area where berry bushes were growing. So it would be able to definitely help document some of that and actually get to be able to showcase how beautiful it is. Like I said, I wish cameras can do how beautiful it is, do it justice how beautiful it is.
No, absolutely. Cameras never do. I don't know what it is. It's just, we're meant to experience this stuff in person, I think. Cameras just,
yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's just, I think just nature in general, that's how it is. So thank you, DJ, so much for this. This has been so cool to talk to you and to experience this through your perception and your eyes. It's just been really, really, really awesome.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Kroger for thousands of appetizing ingredients that inspire countless mouth-watering meals. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices. Plus, extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week and up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with points. So you can get big flavors and big savings Kroger, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
Since you're new to H&R Block, we'll look at your returns from the last 3 years for any money your last guy might have missed for free.
I could get money back from last year?
You could. We'll find any mistakes.
Could have really used that 2 years ago when I dated that mistake for 5 months.
Don't leave money on the table. Switch to H&R Block and get a free Second Look review. Second Look is included at no additional cost with the purchase of tax preparation. Results vary. All tax situations are different. Fees apply if you have us file an amended return.
I really like DJ. I really, really like him.
Isn't he wonderful? He's just such a great person and so talented. You know, here he is, a chef, and has just done so much work over the years, and just a really, really sweet person.
Well, if I ever go Bigfoot hunting, I know who I'd like to call to cook on our on our expedition, because, you know, we want somebody who's professionally trained as a chef out in the woods for sure. Not me and my beans.
Well, that's all I'd be cooking. I don't know. I mean,
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, what a cool conversation. And what I love about this is he comes at it from such a, I almost want to use the word innocent perspective. He doesn't have a dog in the fight here.
Right.
You know, he had the tales from his parents and his grandparents, and a respect for nature. And he didn't go into this going, I'm going to blaze in there with guns and take over. Right. And I love his approach. They had such a gentle approach to this.
Well, it is the indigenous way, you know. It's that respect for nature that they have built right into their culture. And I love that perspective. It really kind of, it's not the, spooky Bigfoot thing. It is, what is it that's something is going on here, and perhaps it's because we upset the balance as human beings in some way. And that's what's going on. Yeah,
absolutely. And I love this. And it was very reflective of what we spoke to Ron Moorhead about in the episode where we had him on the show, where it's really about sort of doing that inner work, like we talk about here all the time. It's about doing that inner work and understanding our impact on what's going on around us. And I think there was nothing better to demonstrate that than what DJ walked away with and what he was able to experience. I mean, who would have thought that going into a place that had so many horrific stories and horrific things happening, and here he is saying, man, if I can go back, if I could put a cabin up there, I'd live there in a second. What a story. You know, I would like to live sort of out further in the middle of nowhere. I'm not talking like Unabomber-esque, you know, away from everybody. But, you know, in a smaller community where everybody knows everybody and that kind of thing, and people rely on each other a little more for things. There's something about that sort of living that makes you feel more in touch with what's going on around you, you know? Here in the city, we just kind of get lost and in the hustle and bustle, and you forget that there's a whole big wide world of stuff going on around us. Totally. And I think that was such a big lesson with this entire thing, which is, how are we connecting with nature on a regular basis? You know, how are we checking in with ourselves? How are we checking in with reconnecting to that spirit? And like in so many of these paranormal type cases, like I've always found that the spiritual stuff that's going on around us, include whether it be a haunting or whether it be Nantinaq, it's such a deep reflection of what you've got going on within you, whether it be yourself or culturally or, you know, whatever. And I think nature and that spiritual, supernatural side of things has a way of like checking us, you know? And I think that's, to me, what happened here with Portlock, where it checked you. And when that energy changed, when DJ and Ash and Keith and Kyle, when they shifted their perspective, it responded so fast. And, you know, to the point where they were able to bring their families back and show them Portlock and introduce, I mean, that wouldn't have happened back in the, 40s and 50s. Here you had people running. So, I mean, what a just phenomenal.
Yeah, it's interesting how spiritual things can have a big impact on daily life if you're paying attention.
Yeah.
We were talking a little bit before the show about things that people just kind of brush off. And yeah, you don't really know what's going on with you unless you're paying attention to it. You could say, oh, I had this experience and it was just that. But if it has no meaning for you, then it has no meaning for you. But there are experiences that you have that perhaps can be even profound, and they seem so mundane.
Yeah, there's an amazing Shaolin monk that I follow on Instagram, and one of the things that he has said over the years is that it is the little things. Mm-hmm. And if you don't acknowledge and nurture the little things, then the big things you'll be oblivious to them. You won't receive them either. So it's always comes back to the small things and understanding just the nuances of what this world is trying to show you. And I think we're always getting messages, and it's always presenting itself in some way, shape, or form to say, hey, like, we could be experiencing this, or you could go that way or this way or whatever. But if we're not paying attention and we've decided that it doesn't mean anything, well then you've got that choice too. It doesn't have to mean anything.
Well, I'm paying attention.
You and me both.
I'm trying.
That's the best we can do.
Meditation is one thing that really helps me to pay attention. Is if I sit down, meditate for 20 minutes a day, just learn how to just be in a moment, I find I notice a lot more of that stuff every day. It may be airy-fairy, it may be fruity-tooty, whatever you want to call it, but it works for me.
And meditation, I think, too, can come in so many different forms, whether it be sitting down and stilling allowing your thoughts to be still, or whether it be spending time with nature, going on a walk in nature, painting, all of those things, spending time with your animals, that stillness and that being able to be present in the moment, as the great athletes often do, they talk about being in the zone, just being able to be present in the moment, and all of a sudden things start to reveal themselves.
And I don't want to derail the conversation, but with my cats, there is some stillness that I have, but it's not, it's very fleeting.
But they're in the moment.
But they're definitely in the moment, those two.
Oh, gosh. Well, and here we are going into the year of the snake.
So,
yes. Which is all about this, and it's all about new beginnings and being able to let go and be present and all of those things. And I mean, what a great opportunity. So it was this was the perfect entryway into, I think, the Lunar New Year.
There you go. Well, I'm looking to shed my old skin this year, so yeah.
Absolutely. Well, it's the time, right? So
yeah. So thank you for joining us on this eerie expedition to Portlock, Alaska, dear listeners.
And remember, there is no line between the natural and the supernatural. All is consciousness. Until next time, stay curious, friends.
Supernatural Circumstances is a co-production of Entity Seeker Paranormal Research and Teachings and Good Egg Studios. This podcast is part of the Curious Cast podcast network. Theme music by Corey Johnson of Catalyst Records in Edmonton, Alberta. You can learn more about Morgan Knudsen at entityseeker.ca and learn more about me, Mike Browne, and listen to my show, Dark Poutine, at darkpoutine.com. Feel free to email the show at supernaturalcircumstances@gmail.com.
Home Network is here.
I love it.
Discover the best shows and your favorite trusted experts all under one roof.
Are you kidding me?
Every Thursday, watch heartwarming programs like an all-new Extreme Makeover Home Edition at 8.
We are so lucky to be a part of this.
And Honest Renovations, starring Jessica Alba and Lizzie Mathis at 9.
Changing these homes, we can change families.
There's no place like it. Home Network. Stream on Stat TV.